Yukari rode the train over to Kichijoji along with Masaki and Chie.
ここ懐かしいです。
Chie heaved a wistful sigh as she stood before Moonworld.
小さい頃は兄があまり帰ってこなかったので、こちらで夕飯をいただくこともあったんですよ。その時よくお邪魔していたのです。
なるほどね。
いらっしゃい。あら、
Kyoko momentarily raised an eyebrow after looking at Yukari's party.
お久しぶりなのです。ええ、おかけになってくださいな。どうかしましたか？あの子、どちら様？見た覚えがあるんだけれど。
Yukari smiled at Kyoko's hush whispering.
仕方ありませんよ。あ、そうだったんだ。
Kyoko breathed a light sigh.
ダメね。年を取っちゃうと物覚えが悪くなっちゃって。そんな、京子さんはまだまだ若いですよ。
Hell yeah.
ありがとう、ゆかりちゃん。皆さん、コーヒーでいいのかしら？温めた牛乳がいいのです。
Oh. Oh, you're lame. Okay. Chie shook her head.
はい、かしこまりました。あ、思い出したわ、あの子。ゆかりちゃんと一緒に。
Oh yeah, now I remember. She was the lame shit that always ordered milk.
そうでしたか？
Yukari couldn't remember ever drinking hot milk. However, she didn't imagine she'd been having coffee as a little girl, so it must have been true. Showing off that moment of bewilderment, Yukari headed for the table Masaki and Chie grabbed.
それで、本当のところの関係はどうなのです？
いやだから上司の妹さんだよ。
ちえちゃん。
Yukari interrupted, since the old friend was making Masaki uncomfortable.
ゆかりちゃんはどうなのです？え？何がですか？
Yukari cocked her head, puzzled as to how this tied back to Masaki and Chie's conversation.
まさきさんのことをどう思っているのです？どうって。
Try as Yukari might, she couldn't find any words to describe her
よ
feelings.
くわかりません。虫とどちらが好きなのです？
Insects.
虫ですよ。
It baffled Yukari as to why she'd ask such an obvious question, yeah.
こんな子ですがいいのです。
Chie shot Masaki a pitying glance. The latter splayed across the table as if Yukari had just sentenced him to be hanged by the neck.
お待たせしました。
Fortunately, Kyoko showed up right with the drinks in hand. Yukari sighed with relief as she sat up in her chair.
ちえちゃん、なんです？
Chie stopped blowing on her hot milk and looked up.
美術館にあった
Why are you
私の絵
blowing on your hot
見ました
milk?
か？
You wanted it hot, it comes in hot, and you're like, nah, let me cool it off. Just order cold milk.
見せてもらったのです。どう感じましたか？相変わらず虫の描写は素晴らしいと思ったのです。そうですよね。
She had little to no filter when it came to her thoughts. That's the way she had been as a kid, and it clearly hadn't changed. However, Yukari was quite grateful to get an honest evaluation of her work.
いっそのこと虫を中心に持ってきた方がいいと思うのです。昆虫をモチーフにする画家もたくさんいますから。ええ、そうですね。
Yukari knew she'd been right to ask fellow artists like Masaki and Chie for feedback. Their input had lifted a heavy load from her chest. I flopped on the floor and stared at the ceiling for hours on end after I got home. Eventually, it grew dark, but I didn't even feel like turning on the lights. All this was thanks to seeing Girl and Shell again after so long. For it reminded me of her, whether I wanted it to or not. Though she was gone, that painting was still a part of this world just like always. No, that's Misa Nakahara in there, not her. I was then hit with the irony that the real Girl and Shell, or rather the statue made from the flesh and blood of Misa Nakahara, had also gone missing. I'd found the statue, no, Misa Nakahara's body, in the basement of Shinzo Mamiya's estate nearly 2 years ago. Unfortunately, it was stolen just before an autopsy could be performed, and not so much as a hair from her head had turned up since. Where in the world could Roshiki have hidden it?
兄さん、
Suddenly, Yukari's voice interrupted my musings.
どうした？
Creaked my eyes open to find Yukari hovering over me, her visage fraught with worry.
どうしたと聞きたいのはこちらです。明かりもつけないで。
いや、 ちょっとな。
I trivialized her concerns and sat up.
飯か。
ええ。
I followed her into the living room with an approving nod. Dinner was already waiting for us on the
そ
table.
いやお前たちは美術館からいつ帰ったんだ？
I asked Yukari once we were both seated. I'd gone looking for them not too long after I'd finished my talk with Stella, only to find not so much as a trace of them.
先に帰っていいと伝言をいただいたのですが、
I had said no such thing.
いつ戻られるかわからないともおっしゃってましたから。
まあそうなるよな。
That's Stella, I swear.
なあでもお前の絵は見たぞ。あの蝶は書き込みすぎじゃない
All the
の
other
か。
artists like, your butterflies look great. Oh, girl, you are so good at drawing butterflies. And then she's like, damn, girl, why you trying too hard with them butterflies? So I remember the shivers that rattled my spine when I saw how she'd gone to the effort of drawing each and every scale on their wings.
皆さん同じような感想ばかりおっしゃるんですね。
Yukari sighed.
そういやまさきは事務所に戻ったのか。
ええ、それがどうかなさいま。
いやなんでもねえけどな。
I would have thought he'd come over for dinner, business with me or not.
お風呂をいただいてきます。食べ終わりましたら台所へ戻しておいていただけますか？
なあわかった。
She seems kind of distant. Something bugging her? Bugging? Didn't seem like it had anything to do with her painting, so maybe something had happened after she'd left the museum. Masaki, you bastard. I was going to have to take this out on him next time we saw each other. Not that I had any proof he'd done anything, though. I left my sister in your care, and she came home looking kind of sad. That means no matter what, it's your fault, you fucko. I get it. As someone with a little sister, I do get it. I parked near the museum and waited outside for Stella. The place itself was open, from what I could tell. Funny, considering most establishments such as these took Monday off.
お待たせ、レイジ。
ああ来たか。
Stella trotted over to me, only to freeze up when she saw my car.
レイジ、運転するの？
なあ慣れたもんだぞ。
電車で行く？
Come on, have a little faith in me, will ya? You drive? Yeah. Okay, let's train. The drive from Ueno to Meijiro was a relatively short one.
電車使うよりも早かっただろ。
うん。
Stella's face was white as a sheet.
悪い。車は苦手だったか。
そうでもない。レイジの運転が荒いだ
そいつは本当に悪かった。
Here I thought I'd been driving carefully.
そういや今日美術館は開館日だったんだな。
け。第1と第3月曜がお休み。だから今日は空いてる。でも今月の第4月曜は臨時休館のはず。
24日か。
展示品の入れ替えのはず。
Sure does love the phrase, I think, doesn't she? If I were a gambler, I'd say she probably doesn't remember clearly. Typical Stella.
レイジ、行こう。
Stella produced a key.
ちょっと待ってくれ。
Grabbed a bouquet of chrysanthemums out from the back seat.
線香は危ないから勘弁してくれな。
Set the chrysanthemums by the front door and offered a silent prayer.
いいぞ。
Aw. Yeah, because well, several of them were here, but obviously the one I'm going to care the most about would be my homie Tojiko. Good old Tsuriko. Like the other Toko was also found here as well. Was there a third one we knew? No, I don't think so, because Orihime was found in like the park. Yeah. Studio had been cleaned scrupulously since I'd last been here nearly 2 years ago. So much so, in fact, that anyone uninitiated would have had no idea that it had once been the stage for gruesome tragedies. No wonder there hadn't been any qualms about using this place as a warehouse for Shinzo Mamiya's work. Speaking of which, said works were set against the corner of the room, covered in cloths. The lack of dust indicated someone likely came by to clean on a regular basis.
心臓が捕まった後、弁護士さんから美術館に連絡があって、ここの管理を任されたから。
So in other words, it had been done as per Shinzo's own will, or rather his last will, to put a morbid spin on it.
しかしこんな静かなところだと 盗難が心配じゃないのか？
Though the area had been experiencing a residential boom lately, it was still a literal jungle of uncultivated land for the most part.
うん。だから確認して美術館に移動させる。
Stella produced a document, a catalog, from a large envelope.
レイジ、胡蝶の夢を出して。
She issued orders as she reviewed the catalog.
ああ、それが絵の題名を示しているのはわかるが、どの絵なのか俺には全く見当がつかないんだが。
蝶の絵。
She's professionally qualified for her job, right?
絵を出してから目録で確認していった方がいいんじゃないのか？
うん。じゃあそれ。
Jesus, how long does it take the covering off? I nodded, unraveled the cloth covering the painting Stella indicated.
これは進化幻想のはず。
So I'll check something off the catalog.
じゃあ次。
Put away the painting I was holding and pulled out the next one at Stella's
う
behest.
ん。聖夜の二絵。
俺に聞かれても。
Checked the back of the painting to see if it could help. Unfortunately, though, there was nothing written on the aged wooden frame. Thus, I checked the painting itself and found a dated signature on the corner.
昭和3年で間違いないか？
うん。昭和3年に心臓が描いたのは聖夜の二絵のみ。
これでいいみたいだな。
It was in this manner that Stella and I checked one painting after the next.
そんなに数はないようだな。
うん。ここにあるのはうちで預かっていたのと本人が持っていたものだけ。
下世話な話だが、結構な価値があるんじゃないのか？
Found that question suddenly crossing my mind.
わかんない。心臓の作品はほとんど競売に出てこないから。
I
買い手
mean,
がつかないから売らない
yeah,
とも言われてた
after
け
everything that
ど。
went down, I can imagine no one's lining up to buy them right now. So she said, but if history had taught me anything, their value would probably skyrocket now that he'd passed. Also true. Not that any of it mattered to me, of course.
レイジ、次お願い。
ああ、
I unraveled the next painting's cloth and subsequently showed the piece to Stella.
天使。いや、これは。
Seeing Stella recoil in bemusement drew my attention to the piece of art I held. Portrayed a girl with no arms. Well, that's a bad start. Not only that, but she evoked an angel with those wings growing out of her back, just like Stella had said. However, only one of those wings was fully developed. The other was malformed, though I couldn't tell whether it had broken or only grown partially.
乗ってない。
Stella flipped through the catalog as she shook her head.
どういうことだ？
ここにあるはずのない絵。
She set down her catalog and walked up to the painting.
サインは間宮心臓のもので間違いない。筆使いも色の使い方もそう。
Stella cocked her head.
そんなことがあるのか？
うん。作家の死後に作品が発見されるのはよくあること。
She studied the painting from top to bottom.
見た感じでは本人の筆で間違いなさそう。
Stella swallowed the painting in its cloth and set it aside separately from the rest.
レイジ、次の絵出して。
ああ、
Though I was curious about the angel painting, we had a job to do. Stella and I left the studio after examining all the paintings. I carried the angel painting while Stella locked up behind
持
me.
って帰るのはこれだけでいいのか？
うん。他のはみんな確認できたから後で取りに来る。
Guess getting that new painting appraised ASAP's her top priority now, huh?
揺れるから後ろで自分で持っててくれよ。
うん。レイジの運転だから分かっ
Especially
て。
with you behind the wheel. Ouch. Once at the car, I folded down the passenger seat so Stella could get in the back, then passed her the painting.
じゃあ戻るか。
Fired up the engine and took off, taking a little more care than usual this time. Stella and I made it back to the museum without incident. There, I helped her out of the car after she passed the painting to me.
ありがとう、レイジ。
どういたしまして。絵は中まで運べばいいか？
ううん、大丈夫。
Stella lifted the painting off the
無
ground.
理しなくてもいいぞ。俺はまだ時間があるし。
ううん。ここ駐車禁止だから。
そりゃ早めに退散した方がいいな。
Masuki left the agency and made for Shinjuku Station. He's planning to spend the day looking for Naori again. However, his trip came to an unexpected halt when he spotted a familiar face near the station, hanging her head. Chie?
前園さん
Maizo? Every time I think it's someone else, this Sai woman.
まさき
Sei,
くん
not Sai. Sei looked up at him.
どうかしたんですか
Much as Masuki was shocked she'd gotten his name right for a change, the dispirited look on her visage had his full attention at the moment.
なんでもないのよ
Sei hastily flailed her hands.
それならいいんですが
The glum aura she exuded clearly said otherwise, but Masuki decided not to press the matter.
買い物ですか
Instead, he discreetly changed the subject.
ええこの前買い忘れたものがあったのよ
Sei was wasting no time answering, blatantly relieved to be off the topic.
溶剤が見つからなくてね修復に使えるような古いのって大抵揮発しちゃってるから
そういうのって見つかるんですか
画材屋さんにはないわね飲みの市で見つけたり
大変そうですね
そうでもないのよどうやれば元の絵に近づけられるか
Sei smiled. Seemed she was starting to snap out of her funk.
美咲くんは仕事
まさきですまあそうです
Almost forgotten.
そう頑張ってね
え
Thus, Masuki made a beeline for the station after Sei waved goodbye. Tuesday evening had arrived. Masuki stood all by himself just outside Shinjuku Station. He spent the day looking into Naori's whereabouts, one place after the next. It's getting late. Probably have enough time to check one more area. But where should I pick? Fuck. Okay. Where should you pick? Fantastic question. Fuck if I know, dude. And if we go to Ueno, there's a chance we run into Toji, which would be great. If we go to the hospital, there's a chance we run into Sexy Therapist, which would be great. If we go to Kichijoji Station, there's a chance we run into Kyoko, which would be great. Really, Shinjuku Station is the one that's not really looking all that enticing. Mainly because he said he'd been all over Shinjuku, right? Or at least he's at Shinjuku right now. And that's where he ran into Sei, is in Shinjuku. So we can assume he's explored Shinjuku pretty thoroughly, right? But Ueno, the hospital, Kichijoji, all viable options. Question is, do we link up with Toji? Potentially link up with the... Or we could see Michiru again. Could potentially see Michiru again. Because, right, like, didn't they say, like, the stations would be too obvious? If we're actually thinking about, like, trying to find Naori, right? Didn't they say, like, oh, it'd be too obvious to look in the train stations. Those would be come over. He would know better than to go there, right? Now, obviously, it's like, well, if we don't expect him to be there, then clearly the most unexpected answer to be there, but that's also the answer we would then expect since it's unexpected. Go into that little paradox again, but I think we're gonna go to the hospital. Maybe we see Sexy Therapist. Maybe we get to see Koharu. Maybe we get to see Michiru. I don't know. There's a chance we could see several people I wouldn't mind seeing again. So yeah, we'll go to the hospital. Masuki visited Kichiki Hospital. Mamiya, the hospital director, was Naori's cousin, therefore may have known something. However, Masuki assumed that Reiji had already considered that possibility. As such, he knew he had to approach this from a separate angle. Masuki entered the hospital. It was deserted, probably since appointment hours were over. There wasn't even anyone manning the reception desk. Who knows if she'll be here with things like this. Then again, she probably wouldn't be around anyway, since she wasn't permanently based here to begin with. Unfortunately, that would also mean he'd come all this way for nothing.
何をしているんだ
Yeah! Sexy Therapist! Let's go! I stand corrected.
綿貫先生
コソ泥なれば通報するしかないのだがどうする
そんなことしませんよ
そうか以前患者のカルテが勝手に閲覧されたことがあると
Haha, that's crazy. Who would do that? Face of Masuki's boss flashed through his head for some reason.
では何の用事があってここに来た
綿貫先生に相談がありまして。
診察時間がある
Oh, that was certainly blunt.
いえ、診療とは関係ないことです。
まあいいだろう。誤解も解いておきたいからな。
Kaede spun around and marched
誤
off.
解？
Though confused, Masaki followed Kaede all the same.
まず言っておかねばならないのは、私は精神科医であって心理学者ではないということだ。
Kaede proclaimed that after taking a seat.
それは承知しています。でも学問の分野は近いのですから、対象の分析などもできるのではありませんか？
私は医者だよ。医者というものは診察して病状を確認し、適宜投薬や治療を行うものだ。被疑者の分析を行いたいのならば、その本人を私の前に連れてきたまえ。
Masaki couldn't argue with that
お
logic.
時間を割いてしまい。
He bowed to her. In hindsight, he should have considered all that before he even asked. I didn't even care if she could actually help. I just wanted to see her again.
もっとも、そう分業がしっかりできるのならば苦労はないのだがね。
はい。
資料さえ揃えばある程度の分析はできる。ただし、分析の真偽については保証できない。
ありがとうございます。
Masaki bowed
気
again.
にするな。同じようなことを警察にも頼まれていたからね。
それって。
メガネをかけたいけすかない刑事だったな。
その人に刑事と言ったら怒られますよ。
Listen, sexy therapist wants to punch Yaginuma in the face. I just see more green flags, honestly.
本日は2月12日水曜日です。さて、西ドイツのミュンヘン
I woke up and plodded over to the living room, where I found the radio on and Yukari looking my way.
おはようございます、イーさん。
ああ、おはよう。
Plopped down on the sofa after giving Yukari a lazy wave.
今朝食を用意しますので、少々お待ちくださいね。
Yukari departed for the kitchen, leaving me alone with a newspaper.
立教の長島16日に入団会見か。
Oh boy, baseball, that's what I care about right now. Flipped through the newspaper in search of notable articles.
結果が出るのが早かったな。
One read, New Shinzo Mamiya painting discovered. Previously unreleased painting of an armless angel was discovered at the deceased Mr. Mamiya's art studio in Shima Ochiai on February 10th. Expert analysis has determined indubitably that the signature and brushwork are a perfect match for Mr. Mamiya's. In a press statement, its current caretaker, the Tokyo Metropolitan Art Museum, announced that they are planning to exhibit the painting to the public on February 13th for one day only.
もう見せるのか。
They sure work fast. Honestly, this seems so impetuous that it'd probably blow up in their faces harder if it later turned out to not be Shinzo Mamiya's work.
何かあったのですか？
It was that moment when Yukari chose to return with plates of toast.
間宮心臓の未発表作だそうだ。
Excuse me. I handed her the newspaper in exchange for my toast.
へえ、これって兄さんが見つけてきたんですよね。
俺が見つけたというより、発見現場にいただけだよ。
I shrugged as I buttered my toast.
見たんですか？
まあ一応な。なんていうか奇妙な絵だったな。
Well, that brand of eccentricity was Shinzo Mamiya's bread and butter, if you ask me. Speaking of bread and butter, toast time.
よくわかりません。
Yukari shot me a puzzled look.
だな。天使だとか、そ
Sinister
ういった
angel.
感じなんだが、もっとまがまがしいものを感じたな。
I like the sound of it. I gave her my impression of the painting as I struggled to find the words to describe it.
堕天使？
Fallen angel, hey! Yukari's cooking.
ああ、そんな感じかもしれないな。両腕が途中からなくて。
Just like Girl in Shell. Saw those words before they surfaced. Not intentionally, mind you. My subconscious had simply decided to avoid that topic like the plague.
そうですか。
Yukari nodded knowingly. She probably realized what was going through my head.
まあ、詳しく知りたかったら、明日一日だけ公開するようだから、見に行ったらどうだ？
明日は平日ですし。
Alas, such were the pains of still being a student. Ah, it's okay. I'm your guardian. I'll just give a little call, be like, hey, Yukari's feeling a little sick. We gotta take the day off. Hey. Marie Stella made her way to the Tokyo Metropolitan Art Museum. The entrance was flooded with people in spite of the early hour. This was the day the museum would be exhibiting Shinzo Mamiya's recently discovered painting. As such, packs of reporters were hounding the premises. Disagreeable as the attention was, it was only natural. After all, Shinzo Mamiya's infamy had ballooned over the past few years. That, plus his recent passing, made him prime fodder for tabloids. The one silver lining, morbid as it may have been, was that he had essentially no relatives left to be harassed by the press and merciless gossip. Maurice also had ties, albeit tenuous at best, to Shinzo and the incidents linked to him. However, she had no intention of going public with any of that information. Maurice passed by the reporters and entered the museum. Interesting. So with the third entry, we essentially get a third protagonist. Is that what I'm getting out of this? Because like in the second game, we saw things from both Reiji and Masaki's perspective, and they're both kind of like dual protagonists. But now we're getting some views from Stella's perspective. Once inside, she headed to the exhibit room after gearing up for work. Shinzo Mamiya's new painting had been dubbed Exile of Paradise by someone or other. The title was different from Maurice's first impression of the piece. No, perhaps it's the same? Maurice had initially called the painting an angel, but now that she took another look at it, she realized it was more like a fallen angel, an angel had been cast out from heaven as punishment. The appraisers had said it depicted a terror beyond human vocabulary. Perhaps they'd been onto something. And now it stood proud and tall on the wall, cordoned off by the stanchions and rope to deter any would-be vandals or thieves. Maurice had been told there'd be security guards watching over it once the museum opened to prevent things from getting too hectic. However, she doubted it'd be that simple, considering the size of the crowd outside.
心臓が最後に残した絵。
As such, it had to be protected at all costs. Maurice looked up at it one more time, praying it made it through the day unscathed. Maurice stationed herself in a corner of the exhibit room once the museum had opened. Its normally quiet halls were now animated. First came a chorus line of footsteps. Shortly thereafter, the din of a rabble. Though they didn't have any cameras, Maurice could tell from a single glance that the men crowding around the painting were reporters. They took out their notepad and started writing despite the guards' attempts to hold them back. It certainly was ironic, considering no number of words could ever do a painting and its meaning justice. Not that most of them, if any, had any interest in actually conveying that to the public. No, all they wanted to use was the painting as a pretext to muckrake? The fuck does muckrake mean? 1 second. It's fine. I went to Google to type this in. I forgot I had copy and pasted that entire fucking like 12 lines of text from the Purgatorio shit into my search. So seeing my recent search history, it's a bunch of like one lines and like 1 word, 2 word things I've searched, and then there's just this big paragraph of text. Oh, it's hilarious. But anyway, muckrake. Search out and publicize scandal about famous people. Okay, had never heard of that word before, but we learned things. Maurice let out a tiny little yawn. Suddenly the hall momentarily gleamed white. Seems someone had taken a photograph. Shouts of security guards were quick to reprimand them. However, once the first stone had been cast, the rest followed suit. Before long, the room was aglow with more flashes than a fireworks show. They could pose a serious risk to other paintings, which is why those in the know didn't bring cameras to museums. Not that this crowd was populated by the types who'd care about that. After all, the early bird got the worm in the world of reporting. It was long before the hall rumbled with bellows. A woman wearing a coat, perhaps disturbed by the clamor, darted past Maurice and left the room. These reporters would ruin the day of all the other visitors if something wasn't done. It was with that epiphany that Maurice rose to her feet and approached a man raising a camera.
写真だ。
Valentine's Day. Oh boy. Sure hope we don't feel depressed today. Yukari took the train to Shinjuku once school had ended for the day. She decided that this was the day she'd clean the agency. Perhaps these frequent visits were no longer necessary now that Masaki was living there and keeping it tidy. The whole custom had been ingrained too deeply into Yukari's routine now. Man, I don't like that they're putting Masaki and Yukari together. It seems like they're really trying to push that one. So now she's gonna go to the agency to clean up. It's like, oh, Masaki, you already cleaned it up so well. Oh my gosh. Oh, what's that? It's Valentine's Day? Oh my gosh. As she approached the agency, Yukari noticed several banners hanging at the entrance of the nearby Isatan department store. They having some sort of sale? Intrigued, Yukari got closer. Banners read Valentine's sale.
バレンタイン
That had been the name of a saint if Yukari's memory served her right. However, she had no idea what that had to do with the department store sale. Oh shit, is this like the first year Valentine's is bit... Now I gotta fucking look up Valentine's Day. Tell me the history of it. No, I don't need to know what day it is. I know what day it is. When did Valentine's Day become a thing? So like the first celebrations in like Europe and whatnot was like around the 8th century, right? So when did it become celebration and status worldwide? Yeah, tell me that much. In Japan, introduced the holiday for the first time in 1936. Later in 53, it began promoting the giving of heart-shaped chocolates. Oh wow, no, this exact event that she's talking about is actually in this Wikipedia article. In 1958, the Isatan department store ran a Valentine's sale. Apparently this was the first Valentine's Day sale. There had been a custom of like giving chocolates and whatnot a few years earlier, but apparently this is the first time an actual Valentine's sale had taken place in Japan. It says further campaigns during the 60s would popularize the custom. But apparently what we're witnessing right now in-game is an actual historic event. So of course that's, yeah, no. So yeah, like I was saying with them trying to push Yukari and Masaki together, you know, they're gonna run into each other at the agency, and then the very first Valentine's Day sale? OMG, we gotta be a part of that, right? Okay. Yeah, I guess. Rather you weren't, but okay. There are hardly any other customers there either. Still, Yukari approached, curious to find out what they had to
チ
sell.
ョコレート
Rows of chocolate bars stood prominently in the front. Nearby poster read, "Want to thank someone for all they've done? Buy them chocolate today." Oh, so Yukari's gonna buy it thinking it's a totally platonic thing, right? She's like, "Oh yeah, I want to thank Masaki. He's done a lot for us recently." And it's like, "Here, it's Valentine's Day chocolate." And like Masaki's gonna be like, for real? Oh my God, you feel that way? OMG. This was the first Yukari had ever heard of such a tradition. Perhaps it was the same for many, hence the lack of interested shoppers. Yukari took a step back from the bars and scrunched her brow. Reiji loves sweets. I'm sure he'd eat some chocolate if I got it for him. What about Mr. Masaki? He claimed at a previous dinner that he ate just about anything, but that didn't change the fact that there were still those out there who weren't fans of sweets. However, she could always just eat it herself if he turned her
す
down.
みません2枚だ
She knows cards by the counter as well. She had to guess they were meant to go with the chocolate to convey one's gratitude.
あとこの
Of that, Yukari got out her wallet and paid up. Clerk carefully packaged the bars and put them in a paper
あり
bag.
がとうございます
Yukari bowed and took off. Okay, did you actually read the card though? Did you just see like a card that had like hearts on it and it was like, oh yeah, that probably has the right message. With that detour taken care of, she stopped by the agency. Masaki wasn't around from what she could tell. Thus, Yukari took off her shoes and procured a broom and dustpan. The room wasn't terribly dirty, but dust bunnies were forming in the corners all the same. As such, Yukari swept them all up in the blink of an eye. Then, once the floor was clear, she wet a dust cloth and wiped it down. Masaki still wasn't back by the time she'd finished, so Yukari had to sit on the sofa and set the chocolate bar on the table. She also took out the card she'd gotten him. What should I write? Did I thank him for how he helps day after day? Yeah, see, she's thinking it's like some kind of platonic thing. She's like, yeah, I'm just leaving it's a little gift for someone who helped out. But Masaki's gonna read it and be like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that meant so much to her. Or should I go with something more personal? She didn't know. All this was completely new to her. Therefore, she sat lost in thought, pencil hovering above the card. What do I tell him? You're running low on soap in the bathroom? Yes. Yes, that's what you put in a Valentine's Day. Man, I wish I had those kind of Valentines. Back in school when you give people just like the cheesy whatever bullshit Valentines you'd buy at the store or whatever. It'd be like some kind of branded shit like Star Wars or some shit. And just be my Valentine. Also, I'm Han Solo. You know, some shit like that. I want Valentines to just say, hey, need more soap in the bathroom. Hey, gonna want to change that toilet paper roll soon. Just saying, running low. Hey, went to go use a paper towel in the kitchen. Well, I might want to make sure you're stocked up there. Running low. Hey, yo. There was some dust on the floor. I want to, reminder, just like, keep up with the sweeping. Just saying. No, that's not appropriate for the occasion. Oh, no, I think it's great. Yukari shook her head. Don't make that noise. Yukari leaned deeper into the sofa. All she wanted was to thank him. She could have just gotten away with writing something like, thank you for everything you do. Oh, and is this where they're going to explore the fact like, oh, but maybe she does care more about him. Maybe she does want to give him something more personal than just a thank you. And yet that seems somewhat embarrassing. She also entertained the possibility of drawing a picture, but that felt equally embarrassing, considering his discerning eye and all. Okay, I doubt he'd be too fucking discerning if it was just simply, a nice gesture, right? It's one thing when it's like your artwork's on display at an exhibit and you're like, it looks good. If you're looking for feedback, me personally, as an artist, he can give like, nice feedback, good feedback. Other than like Reiji, who's just like, damn, your butterfly is detailed. I don't like that. But it's a totally other thing, which you just leave him like a nice little card that has like a thanks. And it's got a cute little drawing inside. He's not gonna be like, well, you see, your stroke with the pen, I could tell it was quite rushed. It doesn't feel like there was much effort put into it. I'm looking at the angles here are all off. The line work is just shoddy as hell. I could tell there wasn't, like, no, he's gonna be like, oh wow, that's nice.
あれ来てたんだ
Suddenly the door opened, revealing Masaki. Yukari hastily rose to her feet and hid the card in her pocket.
今日お掃除の予定でしたから。
いつもありがとう
Masaki bowed to her.
いえ、
Yukari was secretly jealous how effortlessly Masaki had expressed his gratitude.
なんだい
お手洗いの石鹸がなくなりそうですので。
ああ悪いね
That wasn't what she wanted to say, but it was all she'd managed to muster.
あ、
Yukari handed him the chocolate she'd left on the table.
これは
Masaki responded with a puzzled stare.
今日は日頃の感謝を伝える日。
へえそんな行事があるんだでもこちらがお世話になってばかりだよね
Masaki smiled as he made that remark.
チョコレートは嫌いですか？
It was with great effort that Yukari finally found the courage to timidly voice that question.
そんなことないよありがたく頂戴するよ
よかった。
Knot in her stomach unraveled immediately. This whole time, she was so worried if he'd like the chocolate bar or not. Yukari went back home after she finished shopping for dinner. The sky was vermilion from the fading winter sunlight by the time she returned. It was only when she was prepping dinner that she realized she'd left the card for Masaki in her pocket. Afterwards, she visited Reiji's room. Empty, he must still be out. Yukari set the chocolate on his desk and sat before it. Then she grabbed a pencil and wrote, "Thank you for everything you do," on his card. Just like that, she was done. No flourishes or embellishments were necessary. Well, yeah, that's just because that's big bro. It's like, but when it's, oh, that guy at the office, oh no. Thus, Yukari put the pencil back and left the room just as quickly as she'd arrived. Uh-oh. Lascie un, I can't even, ogne paranza, but I can't even properly read that. I wasn't even going to bother screenshotting it. Fuck, man. That music just like stunned me. Like the moment it kicked in, I was just it was like I felt like I was in like a horror movie, right? I'm sitting there like, don't breathe, stay still. Don't move a muscle. Oh, no. They'll hear you. They'll see you. Don't do it. Fuck. Like genuinely, I got goosebumps and shit, man. I'm over here like, man, I can't read this at all. What's this supposed to be? Dun dun. Anyway, I imagine someone's about to die here. I sat all by myself in the apartment. The lights were all off. It was dark. I imagine so if the lights were all off. Pitch black, in fact. I imagine so if the lights were all off. Darkness consumed my heart from the inside out with each passing second. Oh, that seems like you have deeper issues. I have to do something. Maybe turn on a light? I have to do something. And fast. How far away are your light switches? And yet, my body refused to move as I wished. Oh? Much as I wanted to run away, I couldn't. For that would be a sin. Huh? A sin I'd be eternally damned for. But if I don't sin, I'll be stuck in a living hell anyway. Huh? That was just how trapped I felt. It was all that thing's fault. I'd give anything to never have seen it. Oh. So when Marie said she saw someone running away from the exhibit, this is clearly who that's in reference to. My first thought was it was Chie, right? And then also, I'm guessing the girl who modeled for that picture was also Chie. At first, I kind of assumed it was the Sei woman, Masaki's former coworker, just because there was kind of similarities there. But now that I look at, now that we've seen someone have this severe reaction to it, right? Or maybe this is Sei. Maybe Sei was the one who ran away from the art exhibit. I have a feeling it was Chie, though. But I feel like whoever it is that ran away from the art exhibit was also the person who posed for the photo. Why did this happen? Was I betrayed? I didn't know. The answer evaded me. And honestly, I didn't want to think about it. I'm sick of this. I didn't want to be a prisoner to doubt. Darkness consumed my heart from the inside out with each passing second. If this is how things are going to be, then I should just... No, I can't do it. Anything but that. It would be inexcusable. I shook my head in an attempt to dispel the wicked thoughts corroding my mind. Okay, so I'm assuming she's thinking about killing herself. Once again, she appears to be somewhat religious. So she's like, no, I can't do that, or else I'd go to hell. And yet, the idea refused to leave once it had taken root. I have to act, before it's too late, before I commit even more sins. For while I'd been betrayed, betrayal was the one low I refused to stoop to. So she's been betrayed, so I'm guessing that was something meant to be kept secret, but now that he's died, they found it, it got out. She's like, oh. Was that? Huh? So what is it you must do? Laciate agne esperanza voi on in... I can't even make out the letters to try to pronunciate it. Like, I would have done what I did before, but like genuinely just looking at it, I can't make out the letters from the way it's designed.